Hello, my name is Daniel. Thank you for being here with me today. If you enjoy real, heartbreaking cheating stories from Reddit, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment to share your thoughts. It really means a lot to me. This is one of those stories that doesn't just break your heart, it hollows you out slowly, one piece at a time, until you're left staring at someone you thought you knew and realizing you never really did. I was standing in the kitchen of our home in northern Michigan, 11:47 p.m., when I saw the message light up on her phone. The house was quiet, except for the sound of the shower upstairs. My wife, Naomi, was rinsing off after her evening yoga session, or so I thought. I didn't mean to snoop, I truly didn't, but when I saw a message that read, "Can't wait to taste you again tomorrow, same place, same time, -M." My hand slipped and my mug cracked against the edge of the countertop. 24 years. That's how long Naomi and I had been married. I was 51, she was 48. We met in college, married young, raised a daughter together. We made a life. Or at least I thought we did. The shower was still running. I had maybe 3 minutes. My hands were shaking as I scrolled through the thread. Messages, photos, hotel names, inside jokes, and worst of all, conversations about me. Evan's clueless. He thinks I'm at Pilates when I'm really stretching for you. Poor man still believes I'm his sweet little wife. It felt like falling through the floor. I deleted the notification, placed the phone exactly where I'd found it on the kitchen island, and walked to the living room, numb. Everything around me, the framed photos, the blanket she always used, suddenly felt staged. 20 minutes later, Naomi came down wearing the navy silk pajamas I gave her last Christmas. Her hair was wrapped in a towel. She smelled like lavender shampoo and betrayal. "Working late again?" she asked, curling up next to me as I stared blankly at a spreadsheet on my laptop. "Supply chain chaos," I said, not looking up, "just trying to stay ahead." She leaned over and kissed the top of my head. "You're too good to me." I knew exactly what she meant now and who she was saying it for. "I was thinking," I said, closing the laptop slowly, "we should plan a weekend getaway. Just the two of us, like old times." Her smile faltered. It was quick, maybe half a second, but I saw it. "That sounds lovely, but this week's insane at the office. Maybe next month." Her job at the advertising agency had suddenly become so demanding. Late nights, last-minute pitches, and apparently clandestine meetups at the Lakeside Inn off Route 34. "Of course," I replied softly, "whenever you're ready." That night I couldn't sleep. I listened to her breathing beside me, soft and steady like always. But now it sounded like lying. Like every gentle sound was a thread unraveling something I hadn't realized was already gone. She rolled over in her sleep and rested her arm across my chest. I bit down hard on the inside of my cheek to stop myself from pulling away. Our daughter, Hannah, was 19, a sophomore at college, studying psychology. What would this do to her? What would this do to us? But I wasn't ready to confront Naomi, not yet. First, I needed to understand the scope of it, the lies, the timeline, the people involved. I needed the full truth. The next morning, Naomi casually announced she'd be working late again. "Big client pitch tomorrow," she said while buttering toast, her tone breezy, almost rehearsed. "Might not be back until 10. "I'll save you some dinner," I said, pretending to be buried in the financial section. She leaned over and kissed the top of my head. "You're too good to me." After she left, I called in sick for the first time in 5 years. My manager didn't question it. "You okay, Evan? You never take time off." If only she knew. By noon, I was at a tech shop, paying cash for a discreet GPS tracker. I told the teenage clerk it was for my teenage daughter, just trying to keep her safe on the roads. He nodded knowingly. Smart move, sir. Back at home, Naomi's silver Camry sat in the driveway like it hadn't been to hell and back. I crawled beneath it, attached the GPS tracker to the frame, and tested the signal. Everything worked perfectly. The rest of the day, I watched a tiny blue dot on my phone screen. At 2:13 p.m., she left her office. At 2:27, she stopped at the Lakeside Inn. She didn't leave until 4:41 p.m. 2 hours and 14 minutes. When she got home at 10:19 p.m., 49 minutes later than she had promised, she looked tired. Her blouse was wrinkled. Her eyeliner had smudged. She looked like someone who'd worked late. She looked like someone who hadn't realized I'd been watching the whole time. "How was the presentation?" I asked from the kitchen, rinsing off a plate. "Exhausting," she sighed. "But I think it went well. Mr. Delaney seemed impressed." "Delaney?" I asked, drying my hands. "I don't think I've heard of him." "He's new, transferred from the Boston office." The lie was smooth, practiced, like the others that would follow. I nodded slowly. "Well, congratulations. You've been working so hard lately." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Someone has to. And I realized someone had been. Just not for me. Caleb's name dropped into the conversation like it meant nothing, but I knew better. Nothing was accidental anymore. Not her words, not her expressions, not even the way she stirred sugar into her tea. Every gesture had become a performance, a carefully measured beat in a lie she'd rehearsed for perfection. "Maybe I will," I said softly. "Caleb's always been good at managing stress." Something flickered in Caleb's expression. It was so fast, a lesser man would have missed it, but I didn't. Guilt. Or maybe fear. "Changes are good," he said, measuring each word. "What kind of changes?" "Nothing crazy, just breaking out of my usual patterns. Maybe stop being so predictable." "Predictable isn't a bad thing," he replied quickly. "Some people appreciate knowing what to expect. And some people find it boring. Has Naomi ever mentioned that to you?" He took a long sip of his beer. When he set the glass down, his hand trembled slightly. "Marriage is hard," he said, finally. "Even strong marriages hit rough patches. Maybe you guys should try counseling." I tilted my head. "That's an interesting suggestion. Been talking to Naomi about us?" Another flicker. This time, longer. Panic, thinly veiled and quickly buried. "We're all friends," he said, too evenly. "Sometimes she vents. Nothing specific, just work stress. She worries about how much you're working." "She's mentioned that to you?" Caleb shifted in his seat. "She thinks you could use a hobby." "A hobby?" "Yeah, something physical, like working out." "Funny," I said. "She suggested I join a gym." "That's not a bad idea, especially at our age." "Any gym in particular?" I asked, letting the silence hang. Caleb paled. He began pushing the food around on his plate. "There are a few good ones. I think Naomi joined that place on Industrial. What's it called again?" "Lakeview Fitness," I said, watching him flinch. "Right, Lakeview. She seems to like it." "I'm sure she does." We ate the rest of our meal in near silence. Caleb paid, which was rare, and we walked to our cars together. As I unlocked my door, he said softly, "Evan, whatever's going on, just remember, marriage is about forgiveness. People make mistakes, even good people. They do stupid things sometimes." I turned to him. Is that your expert opinion, Dr. Warren? He didn't smile. It's my opinion as someone who cares about both of you. Both of us? You and Naomi. You're my friends. I want you to be happy. All three of us, you mean? Caleb froze. You said you care about both of us, but there are three people here. You, me, and Naomi. So, do you care about all three? He stared at me for a long moment before replying, I care about everyone involved. Involved in what, exactly? In your marriage, he muttered. Jesus, Evan, what's gotten into you? I didn't answer. I got into my car and drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw Caleb standing beside his car, phone pressed to his ear, pacing. I didn't need to wonder who he was calling. That night, Naomi was jumpy. She flinched at noises, checked her phone too often. When Hannah asked for weekend plans, Naomi snapped. I'm just stressed, she said quickly. Work stuff. Are you getting fired or something? No! Can't I have one bad day without being interrogated? At the dinner table, I caught Hannah's eye. She looked back at me with confusion. Later, while Naomi whispered on the phone in the hallway, I helped Hannah with her calculus homework. Is Mom okay? She asked. I couldn't answer. Not really. Not yet. The documents spread across the cafe table were all too familiar. Bank statements, investment summaries, property deeds, retirement balances, every legal thread needed to unravel a 24-year marriage. How did you even get these? I asked, barely recognizing the trembling in my own voice. Ava gave me a half smile. The attorney's office has a paralegal who drinks a little too much at the bar across from mine. You'd be surprised what people will say when they think you're just a stranger asking polite questions. I stared at the paperwork again, a weight settling in my chest like concrete. What is Naomi asking for? Everything, Ava said. Full custody of your daughter, half of all joint assets, including your retirement, the house, your pension, alimony, and, she paused, she's accusing you of emotional mistreatment. My eyes snapped to hers. Emotional mistreatment? In her affidavit, she claims you've been controlling and manipulative for years, that your long hours at work made her feel isolated, that you questioned her too often, that you've been verbally aggressive. She's been building a case, carefully. I flipped through the pages. Our entire marriage boiled down to bullet points and reframed arguments. That time I asked her to text when she got home late? Surveillance. That night we fought about Hannah sneaking out? Yelling, creating an unsafe emotional environment. She's been planning this, I murmured. Probably longer than I ever imagined. Ava gave me a small nod. And Caleb Warren, he's been providing corroborating statements to her lawyer, testifying about your temper at work, inappropriate comments, emotional instability. I pushed the folder away. My hands were still, but my vision was beginning to narrow, like the air around me was collapsing. There's one more thing, Ava said quietly. Marcus Blaine has been pushing her to speed things up. He wants her to file immediately and push for an emergency custody order. Why the rush? I asked, though the dread in my gut already knew. He's in debt. Serious debt. His business is failing, and he owes money to some dangerous people. He needs access to Naomi's finances, and fast. So this isn't about love, I said bitterly. It's about survival, and my wife either doesn't see that or doesn't care. I gathered the files slowly, the pictures, the receipts, the audio files, the maps, the schedules. 24 years of my life reduced to paper, reduced to proof. "What do you need from me?" I asked. "It depends," Abba said. "If you want to fight the divorce, we can discredit her claims using this evidence. If you want a better settlement, we use what we know about Marcus. But if you're looking for something else, I'm not looking to win in court. I'm looking to end this my way." Ava studied me. "I find information, Mr. Cole. What you do with it, that's on you. But I'd strongly recommend speaking to an attorney before you act." I nodded faintly. "And Marcus? Be careful. His history? He doesn't like being trapped." That night I sat alone in my home office, staring at the wreckage. The photos, the receipts, the audio files, the maps, the schedules. Hannah was upstairs finishing her term paper. Naomi was downstairs sipping wine and flipping through a decorating magazine, like nothing had shifted. But everything had. I could file first, protect myself, expose them, confront Naomi, tell everyone what she really was. But I didn't want reasonable. I wanted permanent. The next morning I called in sick. Again. Then I drove to a storage facility outside town and rented a unit under a false name. Paid cash, no ID, no trace. Over the next few days, I moved equipment, supplies, a backup laptop, documents, a generator. I opened a new bank account at a credit union Naomi didn't know about and started transferring money in small, undetectable amounts. I studied Marcus Blaine's routine, his gym hours, his apartment habits, his routes. And then I waited. Thursday afternoon, Naomi kissed my cheek and told me she'd be home late. "Client dinner," she said. "Don't wait up." I watched her car ping on the tracker as it headed to Marcus's complex. Perfect. I waited outside his gym. At 6:30 he left, duffel bag slung over one shoulder, phone in hand. I followed him to his apartment, slipped through the security gate, and waited until the lights came on. Then I knocked on the door. "Maintenance," I called through the door. "Leak complaint." He opened the door in gym shorts, towel slung around his neck. I punched him in the throat before he could speak. He dropped instantly. I stepped over him, shut the door behind me, and locked it. "My name is Evan Cole. You know who I am." His eyes widened with panic. "Don't speak," I said, dragging him to a chair and tying his wrists. "Just listen. We're going to talk about Naomi and about what you've been doing to my life." He coughed, tried to speak. "Quiet now," I said again, pulling out my phone. "It's time you understood what happens when you take everything from someone who's already lost too much." When Naomi came back downstairs, she didn't say much, just rubbed her temples and muttered something about a headache before heading up to bed early. "Sweet dreams," I offered quietly. She didn't answer. The next morning, she was distracted. Barely touched her coffee. Her eyes kept darting toward her phone like it held some lifeline, but the screen stayed blank. "Big day at work, Evan?" "What? Oh, yes, very busy." "Any more client dinners this week?" "I don't know, maybe, depends on how the Delaney pitch develops." She said it flatly, like someone going through the motions, but behind her voice was a tremor I didn't miss. And behind the tremor was silence. Her phone, usually abuzz with updates and fake meetings, didn't make a sound all breakfast. At 9:30 a.m., after Naomi had left for the office, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello?" "It's Marcus," the voice rasped, raw, hesitant, probably still sore from our last conversation. "I gave you 24 hours. "I know. But we've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "She won't listen. I tried to end it this morning and she flipped, accused me of seeing someone else. She's threatening to tell everyone if I don't explain myself. That sounds like your mess to clean up. She's talking about coming to you directly, he said, voice cracking. She thinks you know something. She wants to get ahead of it. A cold, sharp ache bloomed in my chest. Get ahead of it how? She's filing today, divorce, emergency custody motion. She's already called her lawyer. Meeting's at 2. I hung up without a word. Emergency custody. That meant Hannah. That meant Naomi was going to paint me as a danger, as a monster. I called Ava immediately. We have a problem, I said. I'm listening. Naomi's accelerating everything. She's filing this afternoon, pushing for emergency custody. On what grounds? Probably the same emotional manipulation narrative she's been constructing for months, but now she'll say I've escalated, that I'm dangerous. Have you done anything dangerous, Evan? I paused. Depends who you ask. Oh, God, she muttered. What did you do? I had a conversation with Marcus last night. Very direct. Evan, tell me you didn't threaten him. I explained what continuing down this path would cost him. That's the same thing. You scared him. Now Naomi's spiraling. What do I do? You get a lawyer right now. Today, before she files. I have a better idea. No, she said firmly. No, you don't. Whatever you're planning, don't. Please. This ends badly if you keep pushing. I'm going to end it, Ava, one way or another. Evan, send me your final bill. I hung up. The house was silent. Naomi at work, Hannah at school. I had maybe 4 hours before everything changed forever. 4 hours to finish what I'd started. Upstairs, I went straight to our bedroom. Naomi's jewelry box sat in its usual spot. In the back, behind a pair of pearl earrings she never wore, was the small silver key I'd seen her hide 6 months ago. I used to think it was for a deposit box. I was wrong. The key fit the bottom drawer of the filing cabinet in her home office, a drawer I'd never opened, because I believed in privacy, in trust. Inside, I found a second life, one I didn't recognize. Bank statements tied to accounts in Naomi's name only, letters exchanged with at least 3 divorce attorneys over the past 8 months, financial records showing regular transfers from our joint accounts into private ones, and then a folder labeled simply, Insurance. I opened it. Inside were photos, dozens, all of me. Some from behind glass, some from across parking lots. Me pacing in the office, tired and red-eyed. Me arguing with a coworker over a shipment delay. Me raising my voice at Hannah when she'd broken curfew last spring. Each image was chosen with precision. Each one selected to suggest instability, threat, rage. At the bottom of the folder, I found something worse. Medical records I'd never seen. Notes from therapy sessions Naomi had apparently attended without telling me. Diagnoses of anxiety and emotional strain, and a written statement from her doctor affirming her symptoms were consistent with emotional abuse. She'd been building this case long before Marcus entered the picture. The affair wasn't the beginning. It was her exit strategy. I sat in her chair, the papers fanned across her desk, and realized I didn't know the woman I'd been married to for half my life. A car pulled into the driveway. Caleb. His Mercedes came to a stop, tires crunching over gravel. I shoved everything back in place, locked the drawer, and went to meet him. This wasn't over, but it was finally starting to make sense. I gave him one last chance to walk away. Disappear, Marcus. You've done it before. Do it again. Take Danica with you. I'm not asking. Is that a threat? No, it's an opportunity. I gave him the address, the old farmhouse off Briar Hollow Road. Told him to come alone. He refused at first, but I made it clear I'd come to him next. That shut him up. I arrived early. The house was abandoned, covered in ivy and dust, windows like dead eyes. I waited behind a leaning oak about 50 feet out, watching headlights cut through the dark. Marcus's sleek black BMW crawled down the gravel path at 10:15 p.m. Late, of course, always too confident. He stepped out with something metallic in his hand, probably a wrench. Predictable. He scanned the porch, then turned when I spoke. That's far enough. He froze, squinting. Where are you? Safe. Now drop it. Not a chance. Then we have a problem. The problem is you. You're crazy if you think I'll be pushed around. Not crazy, just done playing nice. I know about Robert Walsh. That name stopped him. He didn't speak, but his whole posture changed. You remember Robert, right? The last husband, the one who vanished right after confronting you. He left town. Did he? Then explain why his bank account died the next day. Why his keys and wallet were found at the bus station. Why his business partner filed a missing person report. Marcus's grip tightened, then loosened. Even if that were true, you couldn't prove anything. I don't need to prove it. I just need to stop you from doing to me what you did to him. You're paranoid. Am I? Then why are you here, Marcus? Why didn't you just call the cops if you felt threatened? He didn't answer. I stepped forward into the moonlight. No weapon, just certainty. Here's how this ends. You take Danica and vanish. Far. Quietly. Tonight. And if I don't? Then Robert Walsh gets some company. He stared at me. You killed him. I defended myself, just like I will again if I have to. You're insane. I'm prepared. There's a difference. Marcus raised the wrench, his hands trembling. I should hit you right now. Then you'd have to explain why you came armed to an isolated location instead of going to the police. Think a jury would believe your story? He looked at the tool in his hand, then at me, calculating, realizing. What do you want? For you to be gone, with Danica. Leave Eliza with me. She won't leave her daughter. She will once she sees the stakes. I held up my phone, pressed play. Security footage from the Riverside Lodge. Him and Danica, hand in hand, entering room 204. This video is backed up to multiple drives. If anything happens to me, it goes to everyone in Danica's contacts. He paled. That's blackmail. That's protection. She doesn't get to ruin my life and keep her secrets. He said nothing for a long time. You thought this through. I've had 8 months to think. And if we say no, then we find out what you're really made of. We stood there in silence, nothing but wind and rustling trees. How do I know you won't come after us later? Because I won't need to. You'll be out of my life. That's all I want. And Danica's daughter? Eliza stays. She deserves better. Danica will never agree. She will to stay out of prison. Fraud, theft, slander. I've documented everything." Marcus exhaled. Shoulders dropped. The weight of reality sinking in. "How long?" 24 hours. Then you're gone." He didn't reply, just turned and walked back to his car. As the tail lights faded into the trees, I stood there, empty. I didn't feel victorious, only tired. Phase 2 was done, but what came next would hurt more. Danica came home the next night, visibly shaken. I knew she'd tried calling him all day. I saw the GPS pings. "Rough day?" I asked gently. "Just work." "Need anything?" "Since when do you care?" "I always have. You just stopped noticing." Eliza padded into the room. "Hey, Dad, can I help with my college essay?" "Of course. What's the topic?" "Family dynamics." Danica flinched. I gave her a long look. She couldn't hold my gaze. That night, after dinner, I brought out the folder. "We need to talk. About the divorce you filed, about Marcus, about the missing funds." She froze. Didn't speak. "I know everything, Danica. And I have proof." Her eyes filled, not with guilt, but panic. She wasn't sorry, just caught. She whispered, "I just wanted more." "And now you have nothing." She sat across from me on the couch, the silence stretched so thin it might snap. Her hands trembled in her lap. "Where is he, Colton?" "Gone." "Gone where?" I didn't blink. Just gone. She swallowed. "What did you do?" We talked. I gave him a choice. He made the smart one. "You threatened him." I laid out the consequences. He understood. Danica reached for her phone. "I'm calling the police." "And say what? That your lover vanished after your husband confronted him? That you've been stealing money and plotting behind my back? Without Marcus to back you up, it's just your word." Her hand hovered over the screen, then dropped to her lap. Her voice cracked. "What do you want?" "Withdraw the divorce? Return the money? Tell Eliza the truth." She shook her head, eyes wide. "I won't ruin her view of me." "Too late. She found your USB drive, saw everything. The fake medical files, the photos, the bank statements, the videos." Danica turned pale. Her lip quivered. "No, she couldn't have. I hid it." "Not well enough." She sat back, stunned. "She must hate me." "She's hurting. She still loves you. But that could change." Danica's voice dropped. "What now?" "You leave. Tonight. Quietly. No goodbyes." She whispered, "She's my daughter." "Then you shouldn't have done this." Danica stood, slow and hollow. She packed in silence. When she came down, bags in hand, I didn't meet her eyes. "Can I see her?" "No, she's asleep. Let her keep one good memory." Her voice broke. "I hate you." "I know." She left without another word. I watched from the porch as her car disappeared into the dark. 22 years, gone in the sound of tires on gravel. I sat alone, everything quiet, everything still. Upstairs, Eliza slept on, unaware her mother had vanished. Tomorrow, I'd explain. Somehow. Betrayal doesn't always end in shouting matches or dramatic exits. Sometimes it ends in silence, in a packed bag, a closed door, a hollow space at the dinner table. What happened between Colton and Danica isn't fiction for many people. Affairs, financial deceit, emotional manipulation. These things don't just break trust, they shatter identities. If you're in a toxic relationship, pay attention to the subtle erosion, the missing affection, the secretive behavior, the excuses that no longer add up. It starts slowly, then all at once. You deserve honesty. You deserve respect. And if you're the one making the choices that could destroy someone's world, ask yourself what you're really chasing and whether it's worth the wreckage you'll leave behind. Protect your peace. Document everything if things feel wrong. Talk to a therapist, even privately. And never forget, being forced to rebuild is hard, but sometimes the most painful endings are also the beginning of peace.